That's right, ladies and gentlemen. If you've watched here a while ago, we used to have our favorites, and this is the next generation, baby. This is our favorites on steroids. Because what we're doing is we are working through each of our lovely people. Jake's top 10, Jared's top 10, and now we're covering my top 10. We're going to do me first because obviously, why wouldn't we?
Get it out of the way.
Yeah, get it out of the way.
And we are working on my number 7.
You don't know?
This is the fourth.
This is 7, yeah.
Okay, 7. Okay.
Can't you just count how many of your top 10 movies we've actually watched and count back from 10?
You know, counting is hard.
That's true.
I thought you played guitar. Oh, that makes sense.
Counting numbers. I can count beats, just counting numbers. It's
Counting numbers.
Numbers don't make sense. But you know what does make sense? Quentin Tarantino. Because my...
That's a reach.
I mean,
That's the best segue I can think of.
I also know people that use words they shouldn't.
Yeah. He's
A lot of words he shouldn't.
Yeah.
And then just like, it's okay.
That's not too bad.
Thank you.
Yeah, I really do that higher pitch and like, oh yeah, I really like cinema.
I'll never forget when Ennio Morricone wins Best Score at the Globes for The Hateful Eight. Tarantino goes up to accept it because Ennio's like 88 at the time.
Oh.
And he's like, see, the the film score is like the ghetto of film, like classical music. And I'm sitting there going, what is he talking about? Shut up. I like your movies. I don't like it when you have a microphone, though. You should look up the Norm Macdonald clip sometime of his little... It's so funny.
Why do I feel like he would roast him perfectly?
It's so funny.
But regardless, we're not talking about... We're kind of talking about Tarantino. Because my 7th favorite pick, if you clicked on this title, you clearly know is Inglourious Basterds. I think that's probably his best movie he's made. Whether it's a hot take or not, you guys can agree or disagree with me.
I've not seen them all. It's hard to say.
I
know it's better than Django Unchained.
I love Django Unchained, but but honestly, this is maybe I don't know if this is a hot take or not. My second favorite is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
It's also a good one.
Yeah, it's really
That
hard
might
to,
actually be pretty close to a hot take.
That's what I was wondering because I know a lot of people are kind of iffy on that, but I just
It's pretty divisive.
In case you couldn't tell, we were before the camera was
I
rolling.
know. See, they don't know, and I shouldn't do an inside joke, but I know it bugs you when you mispronounce words.
Before the camera's rolling, I call it divisive.
Yeah,
Jared,
what is it?
What do you call it?
Divisive?
It's divisive. Sound off in the comments as to who's right. Please tell us.
I'm sorry, you
Our
played
nation
the
under God,
pronunciation.
indivisivas. That's what you probably said in
you
school
play-
every day back when that was a thing.
You played the pronunciation on Google. I think you're just sold out on this
heard
one.
So many people call it divisive. So many people.
Well, when those
There's
people,
no
I'd make
way.
it dismissive.
You mean dismissive?
Dismissive.
I don't know how he actually pronounces words now. Help. Send help. Send help, please.
Send help. Send help.
Okay, back on track. Inglourious Basterds. Oh, okay. We're going to start with
This is Tarantino's slowest paced movie.
Mm-hmm.
It is slow.
It's his slowest paced movie.
For a war movie, man. Oh,
It's his slowest paced movie. There were times I was like, how much time is it? Oh my gosh!
I did.
What else do we have to do? We're already at the the tavern scene. There's an hour left. All we have to do is go to the theater.
Was it only an hour? I thought it was like an hour and a half left.
To be fair, when I first clicked on watch this, like when I rented it, because I had to watch it over a couple days.
You don't own this?
I do own it, but I had to just regardless.
Sometimes it doesn't work out to actually watch your physical copy.
It does. It really doesn't. Like, especially when you have to watch.
But that also means he watched it on his phone.
It is what it is. But regardless, whenever I clicked on it to watch it, it said 2.5 hours. I'm like, I thought this was closer to 3. I really thought it was longer, and it's probably because it is slower paced. And I know it's slower paced, and I know that can turn a lot of people off. But that opening scene and I know it's slower paced, but it's very deliberate about like.
Oh, yeah, opening scene's great.
Yeah, I mean, like that's like one of the most like looked at. Like everybody loves this opening scene, and I stand by the fact that you knew Hans Lando was a. I'm not gonna butcher that. How you say his name? You knew he was a son.
Hans Lando.
You gotta say it like Aldo. Yeah, Hans Lando. It's funny.
Buongiorno.
When he said that, I was crying. I was literally crying.
Grazie.
He hit the worst Italian
Okay, everything Brad does in this movie.
He's so funny. But really quick, I want to mention the first scene. You knew he was a psychopath when my man turned down wine for milk. It's like, okay, no, you know something's wrong.
In France.
You don't. Oh, that's just really like right there. I knew like, oh yeah, this is a bad guy. You can tell. It's not the Nazi.
Oh, it wasn't the SS uniform.
It's not the swastika. It's the milk.
Or the skull on his cap.
Just had to. This thing was.
There's Dickey. He's sitting there the first time. He sees him come up the road, and the music turns. That great shot with the clothesline, by the way.
Oh, great shot.
And it's like, oh, and nothing processed here. Everyone else is like, oh, those are probably the bad guys. Dickey's watching. And then, they got their swastikas. Oh, they're wearing SS uniforms. Oh, there's a skull on his cap. Oh, he's walking in, and they have guns, and he sits down, and then he says no to the wine. No, it's the bad guy. I knew it. I called it. Everyone, I called it.
Yeah.
I called it.
It's like you were in the theater with them when it was happening.
I really wish I would have seen this in theaters. My first watch was not in a theater.
You were like 14 though, so you would have had to have someone get you in.
I would have had to, yeah. Or I snuck into something.
I was like 22.
Did you see this in a theater?
No, Jake. Now's a good time. Talk about the first time you watched this.
You did hint something that was an interesting story, so you got to bring it up now.
I'm going to start off with saying that I'm just not a giant Quentin Tarantino fan. I don't like the pacing of his movies. I also don't necessarily tend toward the gore that they have, or the length. And most times, I am not in on his humor.
That's valid. That's.
But my things aside, I was trying to watch this movie because everyone was talking about it in 2009.
Mm-hmm. 2009. You would have been what, a junior or senior in college?
Senior. So I was trying to watch it because everyone was talking about it. I put it in, has subtitles, trying to read the subtitles, and this is another one of my big, huge freaking pet peeves about DVD releases now. Everything is so quiet. Then loud, then quiet, then loud. Because it's hard for me to read subtitles without hearing also the voice. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's a thing for anyone else, but it makes it hard to understand the syntax of the sentence. Mm-hmm. I don't know why, it just does.
No, yeah, it makes sense.
So I'm in my Laker Village apartment trying to watch this movie. My roommate comes out of his room and just starts talking to me. God. Like I'm not watching a subtitle movie, and then the subtitles go away and they're speaking another language.
Oh,
I'm like, what the heck happened? And then they start speaking a third language. And the subtitles are up here this time. And he keeps talking, and goes away, and I'm like, and I start it over, and I start watching it again, and he comes out and he sits down on the couch, and like, go away.
Did you finish the movie?
No. And this was my first watch, so that was in 2009. What are we, 12, 13 years later?
14.
Almost 14 years later.
Yeah.
And you're still talking about this guy.
That's
to be fair,
pretty much the only one of two stories I tell about him.
I have also been in that situation. Not for this movie.
I feel like you've been on both ends of that.
Yeah.
No, actually I haven't.
Oh.
No. I really try to,
The one time Dickey tries not to talk is during movies.
It really is.
Instead, he laughs super loud at the worst possible times, like people peeing on trees.
Check out last week's episode. Go watch it. But no, I feel like because I've been in that situation, especially back Like I was trying to watch something in like college, in like a dorm or like my place, and like I just be like getting into it, really into it, and so all of a sudden someone walks in the door. Yep. I'm like, I'm watching something.
Yeah. The worst is when they're not talking to you. They're like, I think like plenty of places like
I don't know.
Living room, kitchen are kind of like one big room, or like there's like an opening to the living room, and they're talking very loud way over here, and it's just echoing in there really loud, and you can't pay attention.
It's where you just.
I don't know. I think someone trying to talk to you while you are clearly trying to watch a movie might be a little worse than that.
Worse in terms of behavior. I'm just saying it's worse the other way because in that case they're doing something wrong and you call them out. In the other case, they're just unaware of how loud they are and you're too far away to say something. Usually they're just kind of like, okay, they'll be done soon, and then they get on the phone and you're like...
You could do what you did to Archie when he was a puppy.
Oh, shut up! It worked.
It did.
I will say I learned very quickly there are specific kinds... We're going down a complete tangent. But there are specific kinds of movies that you can and can't watch with like groups of people like that. Mm-hmm. Like you just like if I want to like
Stuber.
Stuber, exactly. Or like me and my when we watched Cats together. Like there's specific like
probably Cocaine Bear too.
Cocaine Bear too. Yeah, there's communal movies and there's movies where sit down, shut up, and watch this.
Stuber, I tell
you. Actually, if I'm looking
at
my list, a lot of them are that.
Or the communal or sit down, shut up, and...
Scott Pilgrim, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Like, there's a time and place for both. There absolutely is. And Inglourious Basterds, getting back to the movie.
A movie where most of the scenes are people sitting and talking in different languages. So probably not a good chit-chat movie.
Exactly. You gotta sit down, shut up, and enjoy the movie.
And you don't want, and of course, if you would have paused it and said, "Hey, I'm trying to watch this right now," then you're the bad guy.
I've
especially
been in that
because
exact position before.
Especially because he was in the kitchen making food.
Mm-hmm.
So it's doubly loud.
Yeah. Let's get back to Inglourious Basterds. I have to say, I think one of my favorite things about this movie is the fact that in the end, it wasn't the Americans that beat him. It was Shoshana. It was the Jew from the beginning that he never got. And I think that makes it really funny that the stuck-up Americans were gonna come in and like wreck all your stuff. They're not.
I mean, they kind of did.
I mean,
they did come in and wreck a bunch of stuff, but their plan didn't work. I mean,
they killed Hitler.
They did kill Hitler.
And they
technically their plan only slightly worked, other than Shoshana's plan, is because Hans let it happen.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Because he could have gotten the other Donnie and I can't remember the other one's name out of there, but he didn't. Mm-hmm. And he's actually pretty smart how he orchestrated that.
I stand by. This may be one of my favorite cinematic villains ever. Like Darth Vader is still my number one because I just
really shocker.
Oh, I
Did you know he's Luke's father?
No, really?
Yeah.
We're gonna watch that soon. Now it's all ruined.
But
soon.
But he is so smart. He's cunning, and the fact that he's just ready. I know it. His little he's getting like all into like his own like plot and everything.
He starts speaking Italian to them.
Oh,
that was so funny.
I could not stop laughing.
When he knows right away, and he's asking them their names, and they keep repeating it. It's so funny.
He said, "Buongiorno."
Buongiorno. Grazie.
I could not imagine anybody else playing that role other than Brad Pitt. He hammed it up perfectly in those scenes. Oh my god. I was laughing the entire time.
Brad Pitt is really funny in movies. It's funny how he's a movie star. The people there will go see him specifically for movies, but I know people that just don't like him. And what?
It's a stupid joke. Shania Twain, the line, and
no.
So what? You're Brad Pitt? That don't impress me much. Ba 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 doo. So you ever heard that song?
No,
I have heard that song. That was not a good joke about that song. Go ahead, Jared.
Is that funny for you?
No. I was just gonna say, people will see movies for him being in it, and it's just funny how you don't really think of him as a funny guy right off the bat, but he's been in a lot of comedic roles, and he's legitimately funny.
Is he funny in Bullet Train?
It's fine.
It's
Not really that fun of a movie, in my opinion. It's kind of meh.
I think the other Tarantino movie he's in, Once Upon a Time, he is a goofball, and I love him. He's
Is everyone okay? No, hippies aren't.
no,
Right at the end there.
yeah, he's fantastic, and again, going back to the other, like, yeah, I think Christoph Waltz and him are like the two just they just own every scene that they're in.
Hey, we got Mike Myers cameo.
Wait, what was Mike? Wait,
You saw him, right?
I think so.
Where did Mike Myers pop up again?
When Michael Fassbender's character, Archie Hickox, Lieutenant Archie Hickox. Yes, I said lieutenant because he's British. Weirdo.
Good man.
So
Sorry,
when
good chap.
So the lieutenant goes into the office to get his mission, and Churchill's there. The guy giving him the mission is Mike Myers.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
I wondered why all those freckles look so weird.
That's so funny.
And then the guy playing Churchill is Rod Taylor. A lot of people know him from The Birds. He's also the voice of Pongo in 101 Dalmatians, the animated one.
Huh. That's interesting.
It took me way too long into that scene to realize that was supposed to be Churchill, because they usually, if they're gonna put Churchill in a movie, they put him front and center. And
yeah, this is Winston freaking Churchill.
I mean, look what they did to Gary Oldman.
Yeah, they Churchilled him up.
Yeah, it's a good cast though. Just Daniel Bruhl, poor guy's always playing these jerk Germans.
But he's
I'm sorry,
but at it though.
I know. He's really good.
I don't think he is definitely a jerk, but
he kind of is a jerk. I mean,
he still wanted to.
He basically got mad at her because she wasn't putting out for him.
Yes.
And I was like, dude, really?
Yes.
She said, leave me alone, and you would not stop.
He did seem genuinely into at least learning about her cinema and just learning about. But then again, that all could have just been trying to get her. So
Yeah, their conversation. They bring up G.W. Pabst a few times, and I remember thinking, wow, when I watched this last time, I had no idea who it was. Just funny, a couple years passed. It's a German director.
Oh, okay.
And I've seen a couple of his movies now because a couple Criterions came out in the last couple of years. So it's funny. I watch it, and then just a couple years go by, and you're introduced to things. And it's like, oh, now I know what that is. Now I understand that a little bit.
Yeah, and that's speaking of, as you mentioned, that it's one of those things where you can just tell that Tarantino himself just loves movies.
Yes, he does.
Knows those just deep cuts that
yes, he does.
1 out of 1,000 people, aka Jared, is going to realize.
I will not lie to everyone. When I finished this movie, I text Jared and I said, "So does it make you cry a little bit to see what's his face burn all that physical film?"
Yeah, and I couldn't remember. I thought it was the movie that they were showing, but it was just her library of movies. So, so yeah, kind of.
Yeah, maybe a little. He said no, it's probably propaganda, but now we know.
But I was like, no, she has this expansive library of reels she had in the back. So
a lot of old
I was like,
movies
that hurts.
Got burnt up, but I guess not all of them would have been German national movies, so this probably would have been a little sad to lose those. But also, if you can,
a little sad.
Well, because look at the other side.
Wait, I'm sorry. To lose what? I didn't hear that first.
Oh, just to lose all the old movies that she had.
Yeah.
But on the other end, she took down the Third Reich. So, really, who wins?
I remember my one of my college professors. We were talking about this. I just watched it around that time, the first time, and we were chatting about it, and I said, "Yeah, it's a fun movie. I mean, it's not like it's historically accurate or anything in the slightest." And he goes, "But it's fun. Who the hell cares?" It's really funny the way he said it. I was like, yeah. And so when I watched it again late, a couple years after that, I was like, yeah, this is fun. And then this time watching it, it was like, yeah, it is fun.
I'm sorry, but that tavern scene was just so.
It's really good.
Long, but it's so long.
It's so long.
It's so long.
Well, especially it says it's so like contained and,
And
it's
it just
the same conversations.
I don't want to say it ends with nothing, but it kind of
it
ends immediately where you know it's going to end.
Well, that's kind of what I like about it is the fact that as soon as they step down there, you're like, oh, something's off. Something doesn't feel right. And then you like throughout the entire, obviously you end up shitting everybody and she barely makes it out. But like you know that something like that is coming the entire time, and I think that's what adds like the suspension. Suspense.
Oh boy.
Wow, now he's just saying completely different words instead of just mispronouncing
Well, you know
them.
what I was trying to say. But I think that just adds to it. I think that makes it really, really fun to watch. And also, don't forget that because of that tavern scene, we learn how Germans say they want 3 things.
That's a really good way for what's his name to figure it out. I gotta find his Hellstrom.
Yes.
For Hellstrom to figure it out, and it's not like it's super subtle, but it is a nice little detail. It's like, oh, he's already suspecting something, then he just sees the 3 instead of that, and it's like that's really good.
It's subtle, like you said. It's a very. I think it's creative because the entire.
It's an interesting subtle detail in a very not subtle movie.
Yeah,
It is.
Tarantino really has a way for violence.
It is funny how this is what you'd call a film bro movie, because film bros jump all over Tarantino. Film bro being just they kind of get all I don't even know how to
excited,
sweaty,
aroused.
Just they're into like these type of like movies that they kind of think define some kind of ultra masculism that they think they possess, like, and they go, yeah, the new Tarantino movie slaps, man.
It's so violent.
It's like I just love how the way he juxtaposes the violence with the way they talk, man. And it's just like you have no idea what you're talking about. But it's funny because this movie is mostly talking, and people eat it up too. It's like. Not that they can't. It's just for the type of people who like this. It's like there's not a ton of violence in it comparatively. Like it's more centered
compared
on
to something like Kill Bill.
That's what I was gonna say. Like you look at Kill Bill and people's heads are flying and there's blood.
Or even like Django.
Oh yeah.
And in this one, there's maybe the most.
There's scenes scattered, but the ending is where it all kind of, and that's kind of how, if you look at his movies, this one, Django, Hateful Eight. And Hollywood, the majority of the violence is in the last 10-20 minutes.
I would say that about I would say that
about
a lot of his
Something
movies.
interesting. Those 4 you named are probably my 4 favorite. They really are.
Dickey, you're just inner violence is just spoken to with these movies, isn't it?
I can't help it. I like violent things, and I think it's just.
Well, that's right. He did push his sister
to the
wall.
That awoke something in him.
Here we go again.
So
it's entertaining. Over the top violence to me is entertaining.
So,
I know it's not for everyone.
So, let me tell another story that involves this podcast. It's like a meta story.
God, I'm so
Hammy,
scared.
our friend Hammy, has broken World War II movies for me. We watched Come and See, right?
Sure.
Great movie.
Oh yeah.
It made me start to question.
Wait, we didn't all watch Come and See.
Yeah, I couldn't get a chance to because that was because Hammy was on it, and there was 4 movies to watch, and that was a lot in 1 week.
How many did you watch?
Actually, there was 8 movies to watch.
No, you did not watch 3 of them.
I don't remember how many.
0.
You watched the first 20 minutes of King of Comedy or something like that.
That was my Mortal Storm.
Mortal Storm, that's what it was.
He watched 20 minutes of Mortal Storm before the main plot kicks off, and he didn't watch any of the other 7 movies.
It's a little tricky. To get time
you
to
had
watch
3 weeks.
We did it.
Continue, Jake.
You didn't do it. I did it.
I got close.
Anyway, Hammy broke World War II movies for me. And here's why. Because Come and See is so impactful in its nature, and it kind of shifts your perspective of the war and like civilian type. What am I trying to say, Jared?
I don't know. I know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're trying.
It shifts your perspective on the war. I have started to question, is it okay that we make entertainment movies like this out of the darkest part of human history.
I think for me, what it comes down to is at the end of the day, as long as you understand and respect what actually happened, then you can do whatever you want with it.
Yeah,
and
but
I think that Tarantino respects the issues at hand, and I think that
I would not disagree.
The majority of people, I would hope, would.
I would not disagree.
And I don't say the majority of people. I know the majority of people do respect.
I would not disagree with you on most of those points, but I will remind you that we are living in a world where people are now denying the Holocaust.
Yes, there are.
And
I just don't think that that's the majority. I think that's a very
while we always say that you can't. Well, I always say, I and Drew, whoever, always say you can't evaluate a piece of work outside the context of its time. It makes me wonder what the lasting impact of something like this will be, because it's not a historical film.
And it's not supposed to be.
I know. But what JQ Yahoo is going to understand that if they don't understand other past events, especially when we live in a society that is very quick to neglect its history.
We live in a society.
I
mean, like I said, you have to just, and that's where it depends how you watch this. It depends, like, if you can read the synopsis before you watch this.
How many people do you think do that, though?
Not many.
How many people do you think read?
More than you think. But I really, like...
I think less than I think.
If you go into this knowing that this is purely, like, revisionist history, it's purely just
Dickey,
entertainment.
You worked at a movie theater for years. Nobody reads anything. They don't read what the movie's about. They don't read what movies are out. They don't even look up showtimes before they come. They don't read any of the signs when they get there.
Those people are just doomed from the start.
So we're all doomed. Great.
No, not all of us. I'm not saying all of us. I'm saying those select few that don't read anything.
Most
How many people?
Not most people. And I really think that there's more people out there that are of more.
I wish I could have Dickey's optimism towards this country and this world.
I just think more and more people than you realize are at least respect it. Now, obviously, there's a lot of people that are idiots that don't read and don't understand that what this is just making fun of.
Okay,
but it still respects it.
I don't want to get too deep. I don't want to get too deep into this, but to counter that, I would say I hate saying it because I like the movie. Jojo Rabbit is one that I would point to and say that probably doesn't handle that well, because that's super nuanced in the idea that it is in the kid's head, and that's not actually how Hitler was. And I wonder if we should be making fun of a character like that, a person like that, in that manner. Now, there's the argument, if you say if you make fun of it, you take the power away from it. And I agree with that. I just wonder if we should trivialize it in that manner.
I mean, I see your argument, absolutely. And again, I don't want to keep going down this rabbit hole, but like I said, I think it all just comes down to respect and perspective. And if you can understand the movie or the show or whatever you are about to either read or watch or just view, if you understand the artist's perspective on the period piece or the time that they are referencing, then it's just you don't end up thinking, you're not going to get you're not going to think it's something completely different. So all it just comes down to is understanding the artist's perspective on the material they're making.
And that being said, I'm not saying this is a bad movie. I'm not saying I didn't like it. I'm just, it's just stuff I wonder about.
It's very fair. That's a very valid thought to have, and it's really interesting to think because it's today's society. It's really
something.
It's something.
I do have a question for you though. How many people? I don't know how often you work box or whatever, but how many people come in to take their kids to see a movie and they're totally unaware that the movie that they are seeing is rated R?
It's pretty common.
Because especially in this movie when they bring out the
isn't R printed right next to the title?
It's on the ticket, yeah.
It definitely is.
Not even on the ticket, just on the board up here. Okay,
there are many, many ways to know what something's rated.
I remember when you had to look in the newspaper for showtimes.
Yeah.
I
remember that too.
Fucking old.
A while ago. It's like, yeah, could you imagine taking a kid to see the character called the Jew Bear beat someone to death with a baseball bat?
Hey, bear. That means cuddly, right?
Listen, bears are cuddly, and I stand by that.
Hey, that man looked cuddly.
He did. He did look like a very nice man, and he took out a lot of anger on his face. I'm sure he was a great guy.
That scene of him coming out of that tunnel.
Yeah, which I'm trying to remember what the music was. It wasn't like a.
Yeah, but even before that, when he's just in the shadow, just boom, boom, boom. Oh, man, what is this gonna be? Oh, it also had what's his name? BJ Novak.
Yeah, BJ Novak. Yeah.
I saw him. I was like, I know him.
He's got that little derpy face when you first see him when they're all lined up. He's just.
Yeah, he does have a derpy face.
Also,
and he's the last one of the bastards to live.
He is. He is.
That was. Okay. That was probably the most violent scene for me when they're carving the swastika in his head. Because
didn't they cut away from them carving it like when they were like the Jew Bear scene? Didn't they cut away it a little bit or no?
No. They don't. They're farther away, but they don't cut away.
Maybe that's what it was. They were farther because when they got close.
But I mean, they showed some close-ups of scalping.
Yeah, dude, those effects too. It gave me the.
Maybe it's because we can't imagine what being scalped would feel like as much as someone sticking a knife in your forehead probably is a little more relatable in a weird way. Like, like we can feel that other scalping.
It's just
none of us
it's
have been
just
scalped.
a sensory thing that you can't.
Yeah. Oh, that's just brutal.
So
watching him carve the swastika or the scalping or both.
Well, both. The carving is a little.
Yeah, because they cut down to that low angle and you can see like
really
the flesh like moving up and down and separating, and you're like, that's gonna take a squirt of Bactine.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And the entire time I was like, all right, because like once he got off the radio and said he's gonna surrender to you, and I'm like, they're gonna pull a switcheroo and they're gonna get him.
Yeah, I was wondering how they were gonna turn that because I knew they weren't gonna let him get away with that.
Mm-hmm. I was like waiting because the first time I saw this, I'm waiting. I was like, what are they gonna do? We're not gonna let you. You're gonna take off your uniform, right? Nah, we're not cool with that. And they just.
I think this may be my masterpiece.
And I love that shot too when like you're down and you're looking up at them, looking down at like.
It's basically because
it's better than the other one.
Shots in the past.
That's what
it's basically his trunk shot of the movie.
You're right. You're totally right.
I was going back to the tavern scene. I think why it feels so long, even though there is always something happening and there is tension, even if you know where it's going. Mm-hmm. It's just there's so much talking.
Yeah,
there's a lot of talking.
And it's
a lot of talking that goes very little as far as plot.
Especially the side characters like Wilhelm and how the whole birthday and his son. It's all just like interesting world building, but it doesn't add that much to the plot.
It's not really supposed to be adding to the plot. It's just people talking.
Yeah.
It's filling it out. He's supposed to feel like real people, and he's very good at dialogue. He just it's this thing where because he can do whatever he wants, he's just gonna string these conversations as long as he wants. When you go through his filmography, it's mostly just long scenes of because Reservoir Dogs is mostly talking. Mm-hmm. And then it starts with a whole conversation about what does Like a Virgin mean.
Yeah.
The song. They're just sitting at that breakfast table. Now, that movie's 90 minutes.
99 minutes.
Yeah. So
it's a little easier when.
So it's much shorter. So it's almost like he does probably work better when it's shorter because like Pulp Fiction has its speeches, but.
How long is Pulp Fiction?
I don't know.
Like 100 and.
I
want to say it's like 135. I looked today.
It's pretty close to 2 hours flat.
Oh, it's over 2 hours.
Is it?
I bet you.
I feel like I saw 135, but it might have been 153. A lot of
154.
Oh, all right. So
but then there are still like you can still see it there. Jackie Brown is like that first step where it's mostly people sitting on the couch talking because it's a hangout movie. Mm-hmm. And it's like, oh my goodness, if I feel like if this was shaved down a little bit, it'd be better. And then, like, Kill Bill isn't like that as much at all.
No.
But then you get to this movie, and it's like, that's what the movie is. And it just keeps going, because Django does that too. The Hateful Eight, it works better because they're mostly in one location, it feels much more like a play.
Mm-hmm.
You know, where it's about the characters playing off one another within one location.
Mm-hmm.
But then you get to like What's Part Time in Hollywood, and it's just he just talks as long as he wants.
He loves that.
I do feel like there was a lot of varying tension in the talking scenes of this movie.
Well, that's what I think it does. And I really quick want to reference one of my favorite shows on Netflix of all time, Mindhunter. And I think this does a very similar thing where each conversation has a different character that has the power in that conversation, and you can tell, and that adds to the suspense. And that in both that show and this, that I think that's what. It's long, but I think that's what keeps my attention is that balance of power throughout the conversation and how that changes. Mm-hmm. And especially, I'm going back to like the very first scene, like right off the bat, you could tell that not a second passed that Hans Landa did not have the power in that conversation. And then they slowly introduced the fact that he was right about them hiding under the basement. Then it adds even more. So I think it's long, it's drawn out, yes, but I like their shift in power, or like the changing power of the conversations.
Which one was it? Is it Shoshana that's the girl from National Treasure?
No.
Or is it the movie star girl?
It's a movie star, Diane Kruger.
Okay.
Bridget von Hammersmark.
Yeah, she was great.
Brutal death.
Oh my god! I don't know why
I didn't think they were gonna kill her at first.
It's been a hot second since I've seen this last. It's been at least a couple years. I didn't remember she died that way, and then he just leapt out of his chair, choking her.
His yells are funny. Christoph Waltz is so good, but his voice is so wonky.
It is. Did he win an award for this?
Mm-hmm.
Good, very good.
Yeah, you got supporting actor for this and for Django.
Did you know that they made the movie that they're showing for propaganda for the Nazis? They made that as an entire film.
As a full film?
Yeah.
Nation's Pride?
Yeah, and it's on the Blu-ray that I have.
Oh. I wonder if it's on my Blu-ray, because I also have a Blu-ray.
I imagine so.
That's interesting. I want to watch that.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
I'm just very curious.
Are you sure?
I'm just curious as to how much effort he put into making it.
I was confused, though. The few bits that they showed of the movie, it seemed like it was an American general that was giving the orders.
Because the guys swarming the tower, I think, were American.
Okay.
That's why I think it's supposed to be badly dubbed to make it look like Germans playing Americans, and then they're dubbed over by people who can speak English. I think that's what that was supposed to be.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I also love the way that they characterized Hitler in this. He was off the rails ridiculous.
Again,
making fun of him is the best way to handle it.
Again, like that's that thing where you have to make Hitler be stupid to take the power away from the image of Hitler. Mm-hmm. I still kind of lean towards Taika Waititi's taking it a little too far, but I get it and I understand it. It's just one of those things. Because I said that as I was watching. I was like, they always portray Hitler as like this really, except for maybe in like, what's the movie? Downfall?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Is that that's the only one I've seen bits of where Hitler is not this like ridiculous character. Like he's just this.
What they do is, and because I watched it recently, it was within the last couple months. Because I remember sitting there thinking, like, how does this movie work where he's like the main character? Like, how are we supposed to? Because we're not supposed to sympathize with him.
No.
Like, these are all awful people that are. And the way what the movie does is it uses the perspective of a 20-something girl that is like one of his secretaries.
This one that Jake was talking about, right?
Yes, Downfall. Okay. And it actually works really well because she spends a couple years with him, and all she sees is this, like, because he's a very charismatic person.
Right.
Like, people who are around him really liked him, and that's why, because he's very good at manipulating people.
Yeah.
And she, like, sees that, but then when she hears all this, like, awful stuff that he's done, or is, like, he's even straight up talking about, it's not like that Disney-fied movie where she comes to her senses and realizes he was a bad man. No, she's just kind of taking this in quietly. Like, you can tell she's like, yeah, this is pretty awful.
Interesting.
It's not like it sympathizes with her much either, but it uses her to kind of convey that.
Mm-hmm.
And it is really interesting to see the perspective of these people in the final days of that. You don't feel bad when they're gone.
Oh,
not at all.
Of course not. Yeah.
But it is cool to see the perspective of this. Like, it's just, they keep pushing ahead. Like, we're going to do this and this. It's like, no, it's over.
Yeah.
But they're pretending like it's going to keep going.
Interesting.
It's a very, very, very good movie.
I'll just check that one out.
Yeah. Oh, I looked up. According to Letterboxd, Nation's Pride they had Eli Roth create it for the movie, but it says it's only 6 minutes.
Really?
Okay.
Yeah. So that would make more sense. I was like, a full movie though. If they did, that's pretty impressive. But
Yeah, that's insane.
I think the only thing they really show in the movie of it is him in the tower, which is probably the majority of the movie.
Just him shooting people.
Is it bad that this role for him was way better than Zemo?
Of course it was.
Because he actually got to do stuff.
Yeah, he actually got to.
Instead of just like put people in sinks.
I will say I was shocked
Yeah.
the first time I watched this when Shoshana told him to go turn around and go to the door and just bang bang bang. He did. Like and
He
then
shot
he
him.
turned around and
Oh, of course
shot
he did.
her. Like,
I this time I was like, I don't know why, but like the way he's just laying there after she shoots him, I felt weirdly bad, even though I'm like, why am I feeling bad? I don't like this guy. But like it's like the way he's just laying there and like barely breathing.
that effect it had
I know.
me too.
I was like, oh, and she starts walking like, no. I know it happens, but it's like, well, why would you do that? No, of course he's gonna shoot you. What are you thinking?
To be fair, if I were to, I'm not saying I'm going to, but if I were to shoot someone 3 times, I would assume they'd be dead. Like I wouldn't.
Yeah,
go
but if
for the
you
head.
look where the shots are, they're in his like shoulder and his other shoulder and like lower back. Like it's gonna take a hot second for him to die.
Yeah, that's valid.
I love how right before, or I can't, somewhere in either the chaos or right before the chaos, they cut back to that shot of both of them lying there dead in the booth.
Yeah.
I don't know why I love it. It's like a 5-second little cutback.
Well, that's what I
It's kind of like
It's eerie because it's like her
it's eerie,
film
but
is still surviving,
but it
what
like
she's dead.
plays on that romanticism of the war almost.
little bit.
Would you say?
and I also think it plays on the fact that it's like it's like a classic, just war is hell.
Well, also
And,
like weird, like not weird justice, but like the poetic justice of it.
And also, I was gonna say this. So, like, they're just. I like that. So many people died in that last scene. I think it's fitting because like you're not. It's war. Like you're not gonna make it out of this unscathed. Like a lot of people are going to die.
Them shooting Hitler's head, and I love how
It just
clearly it does.
That's what I say. Over the top violence can, be, if it's done tastefully, can be fun. It really can be, especially like that. I also like slow mo when it's done tastefully, and that shot of him flicking the cigarette, and then it just it flows through the air and beautiful.
What you mean? You didn't like how they used slow mo in Disney's Aladdin
19.
or any Zack Snyder movie?
Hey, actually, he knows how to use it. He uses it too much, but at least he knows how. A lot of people don't use it.
He
well.
has a good. Zack Snyder has a good sense of speed.
I'll give you that.
He knows how to make an image powerful.
Because like if you look at one of my favorite things and this is off topic again, but this is what we do here. One of my favorite things about the original Man of Steel was the sense of speed that they gave Superman's movements.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
that's just always something he's done really well. Whether or not I think his movies overall are any good.
He can have strong parts of, strong ideas, but he's just the whole.
I would watch any of his movies, not Sucker Punch, over anything in the MCU. Even the worst ones. It's like, there's more to, not that they're better.
I mean, you could
There's
watch
There's just more to it.
4 of the Snyder cut of, 4 Marvel movies for one of the Snyder cut, I think.
2.
2?
Oh, they're so long now.
There's only 4 hours.
It's 4 hours, but I mean, the Marvel movies are now almost 3 hours, so it's not even the case anymore. You could watch Doctor Strange like 2.5 times.
Doctor Strange was short.
It's like 105 minutes, something like that.
It was great. Well, it wasn't great.
How long was Ant-Man?
I think it's a good movie.
The first one or the second one?
First one.
Oh, I thought you were on the second
No,
one.
second one's like 120, 130. It's longer. What were you saying?
How long is Quantumania?
That's about 2 hours on the dot, probably.
Too long, yeah.
It was still too long. It should have been 0.
That's off topic. Talk about
I
off
know,
topic.
back to
At
Inglourious
least when
Basterds.
he says off topic, at least it was related to the slow motion.
Now we're just going off on a different. Well, is there anything else you guys want to talk about on Inglourious Basterds?
The only other thing I have to say, and this is just, you two aren't going to agree with me. I know. Some of the editing choices, compared to other Tarantino movies I've seen, were kind of weird to me. Like when they do like the cutbacks to like flashbacks and stuff. The one that particularly upset me, and I don't know why. Well, I do know why, but
Go into it.
Okay, so we get through the first. Is that the first act? The first scene at the farm? Is that a whole act?
No.
How do you divide this into acts?
There's 5 acts in this.
They're chapters.
Yeah.
I think the first act ends after Michael Fassbender gets his mission. I think
Okay.
by then everything is set up.
Okay, I'd
And
buy
then the
that.
middle act is like the tavern scene and all that. And I think the third act probably starts the day of the screening. So it's really long first act, then the other two are much shorter.
So you get through the first chapter and the second chapter, and they're a pretty good chunk of that first act, and then you jump back to Shoshana at the movie theater, and like it took me a second to realize that was her, just kind of be, she looks familiar. Is that okay? Yeah, that is.
Yeah.
And then they go to the dinner scene.
And then I know
With all that, and then you build this up, and you know this, and then just randomly somewhere after Christoph Waltz,
He enters and she sees him, and then she remembers.
yeah,
right?
but it's not like immediately. It's like delayed.
Is it? I think it was.
No,
pretty-
it's delayed. It's weird. That's why I didn't like it. It wasn't like immediately like when he touched her when she first looked at him. It was like when they were getting the dessert. It was like there was like a good minute or two, and it cuts back to her, just a scene of her running away, and I'm like, do you really like? And like this is just me being stupid nitpicky. Like,
No, that's fair.
But do you need to see that? Just like, do you need to have a cutaway shot to them putting the cream on the toasties?
I'm glad you mentioned that because I thought the same thing. I'm like, why are we getting a close up of the cream? What's the
Someone's
what's
living
the-
out his fantasies.
Because before it was a dairy farm. I don't know.
Is it, maybe if that's
all
what it
I
is.
got.
But I'm so glad you mentioned that. I was thinking
Cream.
the same
It's
thing.
made from cows. Dairy farm. I ran away from him at a dairy farm.
I don't think it really annoyed me the rest of the movie because there's the one where the propaganda minister is,
Woo!
yeah. With the yep, and that's played for a joke. That's fine, but I was really genuinely annoyed that they had to show that to me because I already knew it, and I feel like if you had been watching the movie up until this point, you would know it too.
Jake, I feel the same way. I actually did. On this rewatch, I'm like, we already knew that. We didn't need to see.
It wasn't even a rewatch for me.
Yeah.
Like I knew it.
Yeah, and I'm just like, I didn't need to see this again. You could have just, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh well.
I read that 2 of his inspirations for the movie, Tarantino's, one was The Dirty Dozen,
Okay.
because he's making. The other one was a movie we've watched before on this series, Where Eagles Dare.
Really?
Yeah,
I can see that.
Just taking inspiration. There are a lot of dead people in both these movies. All 3 of these movies.
I
Ever
can see
seen
that
The Dirty Dozen?
now that I think
It's
about
fun.
it. You could see a lot of the inspiration from Where Eagles Dare in that tavern scene
Yeah.
with like the stairway and
It's similar. They're undercover in SS uniforms, they're infiltrating something.
Makes sense.
and then the conversation between the kid and Brad Pitt's character Apache.
Yeah.
That was his.
Lieutenant Aldo Rain.
Are there any of our guys down
from
there?
Tennessee.
He's doing, because it's like Southern, but it's not like, it's just.
They
It's
ask
about
him.
as stereotypical American as you could imagine.
Yeah, because Hans asks him, where are you from? Tennessee. He says the name of the town, but I don't remember. I just remember Tennessee.
Sounds like
I think that what they were going for was the most stereotypical American as imagined by
Anybody else.
Europeans.
Yeah, which makes sense because that's who would fit in that character. So I loved it.
I also
I'm
love.
gonna go back and say it one more time. Buongiorno.
Buongiorno.
You
I
know better than
I
do.
also love that they go into that screening wanting to keep a low profile so that he can move around. He is the only person wearing a white tux.
All three had white tuxes, didn't they?
No.
He's the only one?
Yeah.
It's so good.
A white tux, and the woman has a giant cast on. Like,
I know.
oh,
I like
also,
it.
you want to
That's
talk about
what
brutal? Yup.
Yeah.
Yup.
Oh, you're right. That gave me like my skin was crawling.
Like, and it goes on for so long too, and then he like twists. Like, my wife walked in when I was watching it at that part, and she was like, "Ah,
That's when he just turned
what
around
are
and
you
was-
watching?"
Oh my god, yeah, that was gruesome. Oh. On that note, is there anything else you guys want to
I'll
mention
just
about?
say one last thing.
Go for
Jake
it.
made it through this whole thing without saying Christopher Walken instead of Christoph Waltz.
I am proud of myself. Although I think I only said his actual name like once or twice.
Yeah, I think you've just been calling him by his character name. You probably figure out, I don't want to say Christopher Walken. Everyone will laugh at
it
me.
is not Christopher Walken.
Very close. Very close.
I said that very naturally today, didn't I?
Yeah, yes, you did. Well,
Like
Christopher
I was convinced of it.
That's great. Okay, well, on that note, if you like today's conversation and you want to stay tuned for more awesome episodes we got coming your way, Jared, where can the good people follow us online?
You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And you can listen to us on Apple, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, and hey, YouTube. Ring our bell, like, subscribe, comment, rate us on all those. We have a groovy website, and did I miss anything?
That's all of them.
Ah!
So thank you once again for listening to today's episode. If you want to stay tuned to next week's episode of my favorite pick, it is going to be, I'm not going to butcher this, I'm going to remember, Sing Street.
Yes.
Yes, it is a very small movie.
I was waiting for him to say La La Land.
That's next. But this is a small movie. Please go watch it and then same back for next week's episode. It's going to be a great one. So from all of us here at All Slate Media, thank you so much for listening to today's episode. We will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.